Oh, guys, this is an emergency update. As you can tell, like literally, let's not get into it. This needs to be understood. I don't care who you are. I mean, it's as simple as a college or high school kid could understand. If you're an attorney, lawyer, especially the judges, if you're especially a clerk, I need you to understand all of this. America needs you to understand all of this. This is the problem with banking, real estate, and the economy. One simple thing. I'm telling you, listen, this is real estate transaction. You got a seller and a buyer, right? This seller is obviously going to have a down payment. He's going to probably give cash, something near cash. Obviously, he's not going to give actual cash, but something that he just converted from his labor into what this actually is today. This is still digital. We still give him digital. Okay? Understand that there's still a difference between that. For instance, we're going to say that this guy's the only one with something as what we as a society think as value or backing or what it's supposed to be backed by the American labor, the GDP, blah, blah, blah. Let's not get into economics right now. This is a transaction though. He goes to his bank, he gives a deposit to his bank. That bank is going to give title. What the conception is that this bank's going to give title the mortgage payment, and then that title is going to give it to the buyer bank. Yes and no. You got to remember, title company also has a bank. So you think this is giving him cash? No one's giving him cash. Digital to digital to digital. Maybe not even a thing. He may just send it directly to that to digital, and they may just have a clearinghouse, and they may just check the clearinghouse. Who knows? Title can handle it however they want. And that's where you get into foreclosure stuff of wanting a forensic audit report and be able to track the money, blah, blah, blah. It does not matter. Just look at what we need to actually do. You're looking at an argument, you're done. They got you confused, sidetracked, you're in the matrix. Trust me. What happens is that, okay, this digital gets sent to this digital at this transaction. For that to happen, title has to do two things. For title can pay this seller off to clear the title and give new title to the new buyer, they have to check the land record to say, hey, this seller's bank is owed this much. Sense? So they have to check the land record and saying, hey, how many promissory note mortgages are on record that I have to pay? When we as civilians go in and transact with banks, we have to show physical cash checks, paper checks, original ink, blah, blah, blah. We can't show up with copies. We know the whole reason, blah, blah, blah. I want you to think of the promissory notes that gets recorded or the paperwork in general. We're not going to get into full detail. If you want full detail, find our deed of trust and promissory, the foreclosure foundations and basics of definition. But basically, that agreement or that cash money gets put on land record. Usually it's just the deed of trust. The promissory note usually stays hidden in the background. And we won't get into the reason why and whatnot on that. Again, go check that episode out. But the main point is that this land record is not just by title. And that's where a lot of people think like, oh, to transact real estate, I need a real estate broker, I need a title agent, I need the bank, I need all these people. No, you do not. This is land in America, land of the free. You have all of this private out here. They also have access to this land record. When title puts it on the land record is not checking IDs. They do not check IDs. So anyone can go up there, your brother, your sister can turn in the paperwork and say, hey, record this. Now, there are very small checks. There's still a person behind that desk, and they do check. Hey, well, can I record this? Is the proper property record on here? Can I pull up the record? Can I change it? Are proper names? Is something in here? Is this way too outlandish? You know what I mean? If is it filled out with colored crown? You know what I mean? Is it within the land records format and requirements? Blah, blah, blah. This land record, again, also is not full judicial law, everything. This judge may look at the land record because it gets put in his oversight, but he has also all the private what we call pocket deeds, just paper deeds. That's why it's important to have the original paper, because you still have all this private section going on. And he also could just look at a private deed that never got recorded. Same thing with title. That's why you have title insurance. If there's something in the title change of this recorded land, but someone in the private sector says, no, I have something in the middle of your chain of title that says I was owed this, or I was the actual owner, and you sold it, or someone sold it to someone that wasn't supposed to happen. Happens. Trust me. That's why it's important, again, to have the original and paper document. When this, again, title happens, you think title would act like their own bank. You think no, it's it's very clear, actually. What's their name? Title. What is title? Abstract. There's a physical portion to it so that we can see that abstractness, so that we can figure out who is the actual actual rightful owner, and not a fraudulent or whatever paper physical portion that's set. If abstract and physical is kind of getting over your head right now, again, you got to go learn the difference between title and deed. Go see our Foreclosure Foundation episode. The main point is that this is all how normal transactions happen, but what happens when all those disputes happens? Or what happens when it gets on to dragged into the law or the court, and now we're in this judge's preview? The judge has to also look at the land record and the private sector and abstract title. He's got a tough job, but we're gonna make it easy for him, because the court's main objective is that we all stay private and free, and we can govern ourselves and work together and have a thriving economy. Let's get into everything's about banking. And what is banking? Banking's all about balance. It's about accounting. If you want to know why you should drop all of your emotions about all of this, go see our banking episode. And it goes through why this is way different than this money and this money. And you need to understand it's all fiat, fake. It's backed by the actual workers, the labor. And it's very, very clear. We get so caught up on this because we get caught up on this side of the equation, this side of the account, the law side of the account. We need to stay private. We need to handle everything on our side. What's the difference? Law is all about controversy. He cannot have jurisdiction over anything that there's no argument on. So what do? We use their same structure. This is a banking law, black and white. This is what everything's out here. This is the private, occult, secret. Hey, we have to take the action. This guy's never going to take the action. He can't take the action. He has to wait till people bring him controversy. So this is what we need to do. Let's get into it. The controversy, the foreclosure route, it usually goes this way. They find a promissory note and a deed of trust. The deed of trust is normally on that land record, and then they'll go and say, hey, I have a notice of default on that deed of trust. I have rights because there is an original promissory note that someone signed as just that they're always just going to give me payment. And it's only their signature that's on it. So they can pass that promissory note around. And again, whoever holds that promissory note is the rightful person that is rightful to collect payment. And that's why we have the deed of trust on the record. The issue is, again, we're not going to get into this side of the equation. This is what they want you to do. Trust me. They want you to figure out every law that's written down because they want you focused on what's written down. That's on what's actually happening in the real world. This is what's happening in their world. The black and white focus. This is what's law. This is what's public. This is what's out there. I need you to read between the lines and figure out how to do it on the private side. And you have to use different language and words on purpose because you have to make sure it's separate. If you start using these words, then you're pulling yourself into that jurisdiction and you're allowing them, you're actually forcing them. You're the one actually forcing them to focus on this side because you're the one using that language. You're the one using it. And it's not our fault. Trust me. It's the only language we brought up with. It's the only language we can get on Google. And trust me, it's the only language you can get on every AI. When they talk about AI is not good for law, it's perfectly good for law. If you're trying to figure out this stuff, 100% perfect for it. You do not want to figure that out though, and you want to figure out this side. the mechanics behind it. And then you have to create, and you have to drop the fear that your creation is nothing. Because again, if you go on the banking episode, we already know this side is nothing. We already know this is nothing. It's fake fiat. I know our objective, even if it's a small motive, back motive, or a whatever it is, anything. I need you to drop it, because as soon as you drop it, we can start actually seeing the private side, the abstract side. Let's get through it. This is what they'll use to foreclose on you. This is what you'll use to foreclose on them. There's much more behind this. Get into equity jurisdiction, cow washing. Let me write those names down. Start with Richard Horner. Then go over to Catherine Fritz. If you want someone actually in the government, or was. Then get over to Cal Washington, and then also look into Andrew. I forget his name, but these go over equity jurisdiction, which is really spiritual jurisdiction. I think I spelled that wrong, but whatever. Go find these guys. They'll lead you out of the darkness and let you see the light of the private side. And I'm not talking sovereign citizen. I'm not talking avoiding taxes. I'm talking the minute, the business, the commercial, every natural right, and what we still do every day. We still businessly transact in private. If you're still in that kind of perspective and scope of things, you're still making promises every day to one each other. Like, that's why, you know, the whole start of Facebook and Craigslist and stuff, that again was all transactional in between us, more private and whatnot. You can see the control that the control is trying to squeeze on everything. To break from that control, to break from that matrix, you have to find the door. You have to be able to know how to use the door. You have to be able to know how to use the door. Because as you're taking this process, the equitable and honorable way, no argument, the agreement way, you, one, start showing that this is fake. I don't care how many of these guys have let this fake thing go through, because they're looking at abstractness and still taking, you know, abstract. They won't even care about this anymore. Trust me. Go look at my properties, my route, my experience, my spiritual pathway to finding the door, to truly understanding how to use the door. When they foreclose, they're saying, hey, there's a fault on this deed of trust, and I'm going to send you a notice of default, and then I'm going to start taking it the lawful jurisdictional way. You just have to do the private side. And trust me, I don't care what this guy says about this private side. Just ignore it. Please ignore it. Are consequences, and you need to step carefully, because there's things controlling this guy in a spiritual side, and even the other agents in the matrix, the actors, the attorneys, the officers, the bailiff, blah blah blah, whoever's coming up against you in your situation, your thing. And this may not even, this is just one industry niche fractal of the full matrix of law and jurisdiction and everything else. And that's why you can break this and use this powerful stuff to do some some big actions and very consequential things, as we can already tell just based off of how much of this is involved in all of this. Nonetheless, you'll go through a notice of default, and it doesn't matter if you're in a non-judicial state or a judicial state. They still have to give you some kind of notice. And then also this is their attempt to handle on the private side, saying, hey, before I brought this into court, I tried to get a hold of this person. I tried to, you know, work with them and whatnot. And they're obviously, we don't answer it. Why don't we answer it? Because they're trying to build up the spiritual, emotional weight. Well, guess what? We have to play the same game. Let's build up the spiritual, emotional weights, aka guilt. And that's why you have to be very careful with this, because the power of putting the same amount of guilt that they put on us, we have the power to put that same spiritual guilt on them, and that emotional weight. Again, it doesn't matter how much, if you're having that confrontation of how, if this is valid or this is true or whatnot, because again, we know this is not. If you're just getting into this, you may not know that. Go find the people that have been through it, been through the system, been through these processes, have either been successful, unsuccessful of getting through the demons and spiritual entities controlling this aspect. I'm not saying the judges, the individual judges. I'm saying every judge, the position, that authority, that title, position player that's got to get filled. That's not just his individual application doing everything. There's abstractness, law, written controlling him, whether he likes it or not. AKA demons. A demon has power over. Enough of that language. So this is the process. So you're just gonna put the same thing on them ethically. So yeah, you can't totally just say outlandish things. These need to be very on point. So don't just hop in and just think you can just write up anything. I know if this power is transferring to you and this pretty much makes sense, go find some teachers and get into it. I unfortunately don't have that. I'm sure a lot of people on this right now probably don't have that option either. You may need to drop that fear. I mean, even if they're at the point that they're at the eviction stage of you pushing you out of your house, at this stage, I need you to understand, even if you haven't done any of this to build it up, and I don't care what statute limitations are or anything, I don't care if they're past this and someone else has your house already and you're past 3-4 years statute limitation. Well, guess what? That statute limitations is what? You're playing you're focused on their stuff. You need to be able to figure out what's the private size of that and how do I repent? How do I repair everything? How do I go back anew and start from the beginning saying, hey, I'm sorry, I was caught up in all of this language and stuff trying to argue with everyone. Let me try to make everything clearer for both everyone. I agree to whatever you're saying, but for me to responsibly have been able to act on that agreement, I need the same scrutiny that we have in the private sector. That when we govern ourselves, these individual banks want physical original copies with wet industry sinks, and they don't want photocopies of a check. And we know that when they have iffy issues, they'll take it to court and they'll use that law. We know if we try to use the law, that same law of saying, hey, we need original documents, guess what? It's an argument. And you're in their realm and you may or may not work. Most of the time, I'm going to tell you it's probably not going to work because you're stuck in that demon, that spiritual realm, playing their rules. They have control on it. Take away their rules. I'm not saying just everything's gun-ho, free America, go shoot up everything. No. I'm saying you need to understand all the past agreements we've already made, complicitly and everything else, before you just start gun-hoing, shooting everything up. And that's where it's a spiritual journey of figuring out, hey, am I actually responsible for this or am I just trying to get out of something? Is this actually fake? And I know it's fake and I can stand on that rock and I can show the equitability of everything. I can show the inflation. I can show, like, if I am going to pay anything back, I'll pay the original down payment of whoever's money's capital got it and put it and inflated to actually send the digital money. That's how simple it is, really. But instead, we can't be that simple. We have to use their mechanics without their words, and we have to force it on them. Because trust me, whoever is receiving the notice of default and the notice of a true bill, even if it's the third person down the line employee worker at a business mortgage service company. And I know we have this facade that all these banks are just these huge companies with these huge amount of employees and there's a huge amount of paperwork overload. Call on it, trust me. Electronic, all this other stuff. Nonetheless, someone's taking it and you have to trust the spiritual, I can't remember the language or for it, but as above, so below. What does that mean? In legal law, that means the same as notice to the agent is notice to the representative. Notice to the representative is notice to the agent. It means as soon as you give notice, the power of notice, as soon as you give that notice, there's power behind that. I know in our logic brain, we think notice is nothing. It's just a notice. That's it. It is what it is. I don't have to respond to it and I don't got to do anything. It's the power behind it, the non-response, the tacitness behind it. Silent conditional acceptance. That's what tacit is. Same thing with the promissory. It's silent conditional acceptance. That someone's going to keep paying whatever the numbers are on that promissory note so that they can just give that promissory to anyone. And the person receiving that promissory knows that someone's just going to conditionally keep paying it. What happens though that when someone can't pay it? Well, they start going down this road. And you need to stop as soon as they give the weight on you. You need to instantly act and start putting the weight back on them. Bring them back into the original, hey, wait a second. Even if this is real and all your stuff's like you're the legit person that's supposed to be get paid, blah, 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 and whatnot. Let's go back to the original equity. Hey, there's a reason I can't pay. Here's the reason. I'll be honest with you, honorably, blah, blah, blah. Rent prices, whatever it is, just put it down. Be open. So remember, honest, drop your shield, let down the sword. Be open with them. As soon as you release those sins, I don't care whatever it is, or even if it's not a sin, but as soon as you release that guilt, you drop it and you can see it and you can move forward. All right, well, what's my next thing I have to do? I have to balance everything. Well, if they're going to move it to the next step, I have to also move it to the next step so that my repentance, my sin stays balanced. Because if they start taking this too far, I feel the guilt and I start feeling that weight. There's too much notice over here and not enough notice over here. And even if we stayed noticeable the whole time, as long as you stay in agreement and you don't bring any controversy, they will never be able to bring you over to them. There, it's a battle. This is just a battle between which balance is balanced. That's all it is. The foreclosure wars, that's what that is. And don't get caught up on the war, the conflict, this guy, this side of the equation. I need you to understand the mechanics of both. I need you to take the higher ground, the higher standard, spiritual. And I need you to drop the fear and I need you to believe it. And trust me, I am going through it right now. And I'm just fully seeing the full outline of the door and how to actually use it. I've kind of already applied it. If you look at the cases, you can see the notice of or opportunity to correct and whatnot. But I didn't have the full structure to be able to give it the full power. The same structure they're using. I was still using the same words that I need to use, but more on trying to argue and bring controversy of saying, hey, you don't have the original note. You don't have this, blah, blah, blah. I need to stop saying that. And I just need to stand my ground, stand my rock that I'm private. I understand everything more than every one of these guys. And if you can stand that ground, I'm not saying be cocky, all this stuff. I'm not saying you need to go into those emotions or in those personalities to be able to fix all of this that you want fixed. I'm saying take what the Bible, take what most religious texts, take what spiritual all says, aggrievement, love, and whatnot. But do it strategically. Play their game with the real. That's what this is. The basic of it is that as soon as, like, if you want to go on your side of stuff, same thing. When they give you a notice of fault, you're giving them notice of fault of the liability that, hey, for me to give you this money, there's a liability for that. Saying, hey, I don't know if your electronic stuff is real or not. And if you're not going to give me the original documents, the original check and whatnot for me to check, well, I'm going to just act like just how everyone else in the private sector equitably acts. Just how you act. Just how you're trying to enforce it and you know it on the real internal side. But again, it's all about this and them trying to chase that. And again, they use all the employees and stuff that they're all confused because this is the spirit. Every law we write down creates a new spirit that everyone in the game has to abide by and follow. And it doesn't matter if you know it or not and you can apply it. That demon, that spirit, that thing is controlling you. Whether you like it or not. Like, if it doesn't even have control of you, it has boxes that you can't get out of. And that's controlling you and that's a demon, blah, blah, nonetheless. But nonetheless, if you can take it all the way this way. Let's say they stay here and you take it all the way to this, just how sometimes they take it all the way to the sale of the property and you stay stuck up here because you don't know how to communicate properly. It's not even about communicating properly with them. It's about standing your ground when you're communicating so that whenever it does get in front of this guy,